Canadian and U.S. authorities have teamed up to thwart an alleged terror plot. A Pakistani citizen was arrested in Quebec, accused of planning a mass shooting at a Jewish center in Brooklyn, New York.
During our investigation, we discovered Khan used encrypted messaging apps in planning a mass shooting attack at a Jewish site in New York City. Khan wanted to conduct his attack on or around the one-year anniversary of the October 7 Hamas attack on Israel.
20-year-old Mohammed Shahzeb Khan was arrested in Ormstown, Quebec, near the U.S. border on Wednesday. He allegedly planned to attack Jews with guns and knives in the name of ISIS, hoping to carry out the largest attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. And joining me now to talk more about this is John Gilmour, national security expert and former CSIS counter-terrorism analyst. John, thank you very much for being here. What does this incident mean for terrorism activity in Canada? Is it becoming more and more unpredictable?
So, Renee, there are three major things I see taking away from this immediate arrest. First of all, another great example of cooperation between U.S. and Canadian national security and law enforcement teams and agencies. A great example of cooperation there. Secondly, there are a number of key questions related to this immediate arrest that I think bear some consideration. First of all, and again, this is following up from the other case with the LDDs, how and when did he get into Canada? And was there anything to suggest he was a security concern before he? The people he was contacting in the U.S. on social media to be part of the attack, one would presume they're also being investigated by U.S. law enforcement agencies. And finally, and most interestingly for me, he allegedly was driven by three different cars when he traveled between Toronto and Montreal, demonstrating something of what we call OPSEC, or operational security, on his part. Were these people who drove him part of the plot as well? And will we see more arrests coming out of further investigation of his association with these individuals? But the bigger issues that I think you alluded to, Renee, are two big things. First of all, this is the fifth incident involving either Canadian or somebody who lived in Canada who was prepared to engage in jihadist motivated terrorism in a little more than a month and a half. So the big question and concern is this an outcome of the Israeli-Hamas conflict in Gaza that will presumably be resolved at some point in time, or are we seeing a sustained resurgence of jihadist motivated terrorism going forward? So that's the first big question. The second big concern that I have is that whether the attack was successful or not, it's going to raise concerns on the part of U.S. lawmakers or security officials that always seems to be sort of bubbling below the surface, that Canada continues to be somewhat lax in its security or immigration screening, certainly when it comes to the U.S.-Canadian border. Whether this is going to Canada-U.S. relations going forward in some manner is only can only be speculated at this time, I would suggest.
Do more measures need to be put in place in order to stay steps ahead of terrorists?
Well, I think when you look at the arrest of the two individuals from GTA and this particular incident, they're both suggesting that there has to be some sort of revisiting or resetting of the screening at the border for these kinds of individuals coming in. In the case of Mr. Khan, we don't know how long he's been here. We don't know, presumably he's not a Canadian citizen, so it's not the same as the LGDs, but we don't know how long he's been here. We don't know how he was radicalized, whether he was radicalized before he came into Canada or whether he was radicalized while he was in Canada, again, not knowing how long he's actually been here yet.
Mm-hmm. You bring up a lot of interesting questions. Unfortunately, our time has come to pass. John, thank you very much for being here with us and sharing some of your insights.
Always a pleasure.